And welcome, sports fans, to today's Sports Roundtable as we're heading into the weekend for the last weekend, heading into the Christmas holiday, and hopefully everyone's enjoying their weekend so far, as I'm sure there's quite a bit of shopping and festivities going on this weekend. Hopefully everyone enjoys that, and looking forward to Christmas on Monday, which of course that means the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament coming the day after, starting Tuesday going through Friday up at Bloomfield for the 61st Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. And hopefully you'll join us for that as we'll preview that Christmas tournament here coming up shortly. We've got Terry McVey and Tommy Jacques along with us to preview all of that Christmas tournament that's coming up starting Tuesday, which we're going to bring live to you once again this year here on YHC. So we got that coming up here momentarily, but we do want to get to some basketball action that took place last night in the area, notably the Lady Royals Classic, the 16-team basketball tournament over Twin Rivers, and that wrapped up last night with the championship games. And the championship was the Dexter Lady Bearcats defeating the Neelyville Tigers. Lady Tigers 66-58 in a rematch of that game from last year, which Neelyville took, I believe, took that final last year, and Dexter winning that one last night over at Twin Rivers, defeating Neelyville. Two of the top teams in the area. These teams really match up well, and both very good programs, and looking to make big runs this year in girls basketball. So the Lady Bearcats once again coming away with that Lady Royals Classic Tournament Championship. In the third place game, it was Twin Rivers over Chaffee, 48-41. Lady Royals taking third place over Chaffee. In the fifth place game, it was fourth seeded Naylor over seventh Donovan, 50-48. And in the consolation championship, 11th seeded Charleston defeated 8th Portageville, 62-54. And those are the games to report on from last night in the area. So the Dexter Lady Bearcats winning that Lady Royals Classic Tournament once again over at Twin Rivers. And voice is tough. Hopefully I can get through it today. But that's pretty much all the action. We had a little bit of boys basketball action earlier in the week, but a lot of that faded out through the end of the week, going to the Christmas break. And of course, all eyes are on the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament, which will be coming up next week. And we're going to take a short break and be back with Tommy Jacques and Terry McVey to preview this year's Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. Don't go away.
At Ag Explore, we're farmers too. So we know that farming's never been a 9-to-5 job. Just like the farmer, we work overtime to bring you whatever it takes. Solutions like InZone help you retain 47% more nitrogen with an overall average increase of 12 bushels per acre. Imagine what InZone can do for you. Ag Explore.
At New Wave, we're proud to call the communities we serve our home. Our customers tell us having a local office is important to them. That's why we maintain dozens of local offices and employ over 500 skilled employees, all focused on delivering the best customer experience. We don't just connect communities, we connect to our communities, helping support the schools, organizations, and events that support all of us. Thank you for choosing New Wave Communications, your local provider of internet, TV, and phone.
All right.
And welcome back. And now we're along with our guests. We have Tommy Jacques and Terry McVey along the phone with us today. And guys, it's here upon us already, the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament coming up on Tuesday. And I don't know about you guys, but I think we really got a good tournament in store. What about you? What say you, Terry?
I think it's going to be a really good tournament. I think, you got down to 8 or 9 seed that can possibly win it. Dexter's going to be favored. They deserve the 1 seed and favored to win. But you get down to 3, 4, 5, 6. You got several teams that have a chance to really make some noise in this tournament. And what's kind of exciting about it is you got teams that haven't been very good the last couple of years that are good this year, like Portageville has already won a tournament. East Prairie's off to a really good start and has good balanced scoring. So I'm really excited for this tournament.
Yeah, and Tommy, we've gotten to do some games already this year, and got to see some of the teams that are going to be participating in this year's tournament, and we've been pretty impressed with the teams we've seen so far.
Yes, we have, especially that Portageville team. Earlier they took a loss to East Prairie, but I understand there were some players gone from Portageville's team, but I was really impressed with Portageville, and they got Torrey that's going to lead them, but boy, they've got a cast of other kids that can really come in there and play.
Yeah, Portageville put 3 or 4 guys around Torrey. They're going to be. You're going to have to deal with them.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, they've been strong, and we got to see them, as we're showing here, in that Clarkton Holiday Tournament as they took on Risco, and Torrey just really took over the last half of that game. But, man, they've really had some kids step up this year. I really like their backcourt. Bub Lance and Daniel Carter, they've really stepped up their game over the last year or two. And, the perimeter shooting along with the athleticism with Torrey, and also they got some, Henry Gates is a really good athlete, and you get him in space right there in the lane, he's tough to handle. And Lamar Alexander, he's a really physical guy underneath. So I'd say, we haven't seen a complete Portageville team in a couple years. It's been a few years since we've seen a pretty complete team. But man, with the backcourt with Lance and Carter, along with Torrey and the rest of that crew with Gates and Alexander and a couple other guys that they bring in, I'll tell you, this is one team. This might be our sleeper. This might be our sleeper.
Oh, no.
What do you guys have to say about that? We got a new sleeper this time.
I knew you would get to that, didn't you, Terry?
Yeah.
We hadn't had too good luck with those sleepers.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's it's an inside joke for everybody out there. We did this every year, and I think one year Terry said South Pim's the sleeper. And then the next year, I think I threw out there, I think South Bend's the sleeper. Hold on. This is one team I think got seeded a little lower than they really are. 7th seed of Portageville, which will be taking on Bloomfield. 10th seed of Bloomfield in the first round. That'd be a little nice matchup there, but say the high seed moves on, Portageville and Haytide in that second round. That could really be an interesting matchup, especially on day 2. Boot Hill Conference foes there. That should definitely be a matchup worth looking forward to on that second day.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and there's going to be some good games that second day at winner's bracket. With Mullen advance, and so does East Prairie. That could be a ball game.
I think that could be a really good ball game.
Yeah, and that's one team that has really turned some heads early on this year's East Prairie. They got big wins. New Madrid, Orion just last week. They're in their Scott, Mississippi Conference. We got Portageville, which Portageville was down a few kids, but still yet a nice win over Portageville. And they've really turned some heads early on this year. The only blemish on the record really so far is Chaffee, but Chaffee I hear that's really stepped up this year and has got quite a team, an improved team from past years. So East Prairie is one of those teams that did pretty well over the last couple years in the tournament, but they were probably right there in the 8-9 range for a seed. But they've moved up and going to be the 5th seed this year, as they will take on Van Buren in that first round. But I'd say as good as they're playing, they could definitely be an interesting matchup with Malden in that second round, who's also really playing well.
Well, East Prairie, they've done okay in the tournament the last couple of years, but this year it looks like they have more balanced scoring. The last couple of years they've relied a lot on Tipler. He was an all-tournament selection when he was a freshman. He's a junior now, and he's still scoring, but Martin is also scoring big. And they have one other player, I can't think of his name right now, that looks like contributing points. So they have more balanced scoring than what they've had in the past, and I think that just makes them more dangerous. Yeah,
and I got to talk to Casey Knight over the seed meeting up there at Bloomfield, and one thing that really adds to their lineup this year, I can't remember the kid's name. It's golly. Anyways, he was injured last year, and he played 2 years ago as a sophomore and played really well. And I can remember that now that I think of it. And he's back in the mix this year, along with Tipler and some of the other younger kids that are moving up and playing well. So he's a really good player, and he plays inside and out. He can shoot the 3-point shot. He can really mix it up in the paint as well. So that's an added element that they didn't have last year. That especially at upperclassmen as well, being able to add to that team there at East Prairie. So it's probably something we didn't quite expect from last year, with him being out for a year and him coming back and really adding to that team. Makes them awful tough. So that's an added dimension to that team that is going to be pretty scary come this tournament, especially as a 5 seed, potentially have a chance to make it to the final day and potentially play for the championship. So East Prairie's one of those teams too that right there in the mix that we might not have expected to be in the mix in this Christmas tournament this year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But let's don't look past Malden. How good. I've just seen Malden one time when they played against Kennett, and they look like a pretty good basketball team. And one thing they have this year, which seems a little bit better than last year, is that they have a little bit better shooting, or at least the game I saw.
Yeah, we did that game down there at Kennett, which we're showing here, and Malden really looked well. And I'd tell you, these guys are really playing well together. They're moving the ball. They push the ball up the floor, and they're scoring in all facets. They're scoring in transition. They're scoring in the half court. They're scoring in the half court. I know D Triplett's come along, giving them a great presence underneath for the Green Wave this year, and their perimeter shooting's really done well. Chance Booker's shooting the ball extremely well. Deshaun Butler's really looking good from the 3-point line and on the perimeter. And Malcolm McBride, he's an aggressive player. He mixes it up, pushes it in transition, finds the open guy. And, these guys are really playing well together. They're fast. Not a whole lot of size, but they play fast. They rebound well. They attack the basket. And Malden's probably one of the teams that's playing the best at this point of the season.
Yeah, they lost to Isom from last year, but other than that, they've got 4 or 5 guys that logged lots of minutes in the last 2 years, especially like McBride and Butler, and handling the ball. But I'm like you. I was very impressed with the way they played as a team, and moved the ball, moved it crisply to get the open man and get those open 3-pointers.
Yeah, and Tommy, I really like this kid, Broderick Annister. Boy, he's really stepped up his game this year, and he's really doing a lot of his work in the paint, getting the rebounds, getting a lot of putbacks for the Green Wave, and him along with Triplett there in the middle. Boy, they've really looked good early on around the basket.
Yeah, you're right. I've always liked Annister. Watched him at junior varsity and was pretty impressed with him. He's really coming along well this year, and like you say, then D Triplett comes in and spells him a little bit, and boy, this big D in there takes up some space. He's a load, very strong, and he's a load in there.
Yeah, he really is, and he only stands at about 5'9" maybe.
Probably.
But he's so wide that nobody can really get around him and get the position they need inside right there at the basket. And boy, he's doing a great job sealing off the basket and just putting some easy ones off the glass. And not a lot of size from the Green Wave, but you can get him down to him. He gets that hip into you. Yeah, that's all she wrote.
And I'll say this, the other thing that impresses me about the Green Wave, they're really defending well. They really play team defense, and so far they have really been playing some very good defense.
Yeah, and that's I've been really impressed with this Malden team, that deep team. They got 7 seniors that they got this year, Tommy?
Right.
And they're all playing. These guys are coming in, so they one kid that's really impressed as an underclassman is Jalen Miller. I think he's a sophomore,
right.
And he came in and he's an electric surge. Even though they don't much need it because they got quite a bit of athleticism, but he comes in and he just takes it up a notch. He's really good in the transition, pushing the ball up the floor. and has got some length. He's one of the few kids on the team that's got some length that can really disrupt defensively, and he's been a good kid to come off the bench for the Green Wave this year.
Yeah, they could make some noise in that tournament if they stay together. You know, it's the team that's going to put the 3 to 4 games together during the 4-game span that's going to make it to the championship. And like Terry said, a lot of these teams in the top 7 or 8 have got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's one thing about Malden. That's probably the one team, maybe them and Hayti, but Malden will get into about that third day. You know, you're playing your third day in a row, and they just hit a wall, it seems like, in that third day, or sometimes even the second day. They play well throughout the tournament, then they hit that wall and just come up short a couple times. But I think it's a team that's certainly got the energy, and the seniors, they're not going to, they're going to be certainly better equipped to go further in the tournament once they get into that third and fourth day. I think this team is going to be able to break through and be able to play at a high level for a longer period of time through the tournament. But they are one of those teams that hits that wall. But I expect this year for them to have a strong 4 days in the tournament. All right, guys, let's move on and talk about a few other teams here. Let's talk about Dexter, the top seed this year, defending champion, and pretty much the same team coming back. They do lose Josh Jarrell from last year's team, but quite a few upperclassmen still coming up. Clay Mullins having a pretty good year, had a good year last year as a junior, and certainly an aggressive dribbler and scorer for the Dexter Bearcats. Also bring back Gabe Jackson, who is a force in this tournament, standing around 6'6", big body, especially in this tournament where size is at a premium. You don't get a whole lot of size in this tournament. Gabe Jackson and his presence for the Bearcats certainly makes a big difference, and certainly did last year in that championship game with Hayti. Hayti just didn't have a match for him there in the paint, scoring and rebounding, and just the presence of Gabe Jackson for the Bearcats really makes them a tough opponent in this tournament.
Yeah, and they also have they have a lot of senior leadership. And there's also Sindel, who's the shooter. You got those 3 seniors playing at a high level, and then after that you got 4 or 5 guys that can play and pretty well, kind of interchangeable, but they all play pretty well. But you got those 3 seniors leading the team. They're going to be really difficult to beat.
Yeah, I agree, Terry. They're definitely should have the number 1 seed, which they do, and they're going to be a hard out because they're a very disciplined team, very well coached, and this Dexter Bearcat team is, they're pretty well rounded. So you better watch out for Gabe Jackson and crew.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he was all tournament as a freshman, but I know as a sophomore and a junior he was, and he probably was the freshman because he made a pretty big impact his first year, and has always made that impact for Dexter, and it's really been enjoyable watching him play for 4 years.
Yeah, he's really been an impact from his sophomore year on, and like I said again, his size is just so hard to match up with. He's got a wide frame, and he's got a pretty good touch around the basket. And it's tough to match up with 6'6". I think maybe the tallest player that I can think of memory that can really match up is maybe Ian Torrey at around 6'5". Other than that, you got Suter there for Bernie, stands at around 6'4". But Gabe's going to certainly have a favorable matchup. Any matchup he's going to have in this tournament. So that's what makes Dexter so hard, certainly, to match up with in this tournament. And Ben Sindel, you mentioned, Terry, a very good 3-point shooter. I think he's the career leader in 3-pointers for the Dexter Bearcats, and he's certainly a threat for Dexter. And Clay Mullins really opens up things for him, and also Jackson, a very aggressive dribbler into the paint, really attacks the basket. So it's
he's a very good guard. I mean, he's one of the premier guards in the area, and has been for a couple of years.
Yeah, he came in last year as a transfer and played well last year. He came in and really, and that's what Dexter needs. They need that aggressive dribbler to get into the paint, attack the basket, and that opens up things for Sindel and those guys on the perimeter, and even Jackson there underneath. So, Dexter's gotten some younger kids that have moved up to the varsity level this year. Braxton Foster gives them some size, some athleticism there in the paint, being able to come in and spell Jackson quite a bit. So he stands at around 6'4", got some pretty good size. Also, Nate Gargis comes in and plays in the perimeter a lot. The point guard coming in as a junior. So, and they got a couple other kids that play. So they play about 9 or 10 kids that I've seen this year. Dowdy's really making an effort to play a lot of kids and keep the intensity on the floor for much of the game. And they've done a pretty good job bringing in 4 or 5 guys off the bench and still playing at a high level. So that'll certainly benefit them playing in a tournament. You play 4 days straight, being able to play 9 or 10 guys off your team. All right, guys, Terry, let's talk about let's go to your Kennet Indians down there. That's always a team that's in the mix. The Kennet Indians, as they're coming in a little different this year, got a 9 seed. We're not used to seeing them down this far, but they're in the first round. They'll have a pretty competitive game there in the nightcap of day 1 with South Pemiscot, and that could be a pretty close game there to wrap up the first night.
Yeah, Kennet, they lost about 8 seniors from last year, 7 or 8 seniors off of last year's team, and only have 1 senior, Patrick Maddox, coming back. And one of the problems Kennet did, they played in last year as a junior that played, but he's very inexperienced. He's still learning. Then you got a couple of sophomores and a freshman, Kobe Gates, who's playing point guard now, about 6'4", and they're going to eventually be pretty decent, but they don't have much depth. One of the things you see in this tournament, and it's one thing to see as the 4 days go on, is the coaches get into what their 8 or 9 man rotation is going to be. Well, Kennet's already down to a 7-man rotation. That's when everybody dresses out. So they're not very deep, but they got Winston Parent sitting on the bench, and he's had another week with them. And so that's going to be improved. And they played a very good game a week ago Friday against Donovan, who's the 6th seed. They beat Donovan by 19 or 20. So Kennet's going to eventually be pretty good, but it's going to be with their lack of depth, playing the 4 days is going to be difficult, but Linus will figure it out.
Yeah, I get some young kids playing up this year. I know the Gates kid, I think he's a freshman, and playing quite a bit of minutes, and that's tough for a freshman to play a lot of minutes at the varsity level, and he's got some size, and he's able to mix it up a little bit for the Indians. So they have that element, and like you said, Maddox, returning.
He's got the ability. He's got the skills to play point guard.
Yeah, well, he's playing point, isn't he not? Or the game we saw Malden, seemed like he was playing point quite a bit that game.
Well, he played point pretty much the whole game against Donovan and played a very good game. So you're going to see him. You're probably going to see him improve game to game. And he's got some skills, and he's going to be pretty good. But he is a freshman.
Yeah, it's hard to expect a whole lot out of the freshman, but with his size, he's going to be able to be out there and mix it up. And he puts it on the floor pretty good for a kid his size, especially as a freshman. So certainly some potential there in Gates there in Kennet. And like you said, Terry, Maddox, one of their I think might be their only returning starting senior. And he's having to play. The game we saw in Kennet or Malden, maybe you can speak to the other games, but he's really taking on the role of playing on the block underneath. And probably not used to playing down there as much. He's been more of a perimeter player over the last couple of years. But, with the lack of depth they have, he's having to take on that role to play there underneath. But has he pretty much done that for the rest of their games as well?
He's playing back and forth. he's pretty much playing the small forward position because they don't have a big forward. Well, I guess he played the big forward position as a small forward, but he's a very clever player. He knows how to score, and he's a leader. You know, he's quarterback on the football team, and he's a leader on the floor. And the other night against Dauphin, he had like 28 and finds ways to score. Matter of fact, at the end of last year, at the end of the year, he's Kennett's leading scorer the last few games. So he's a very clever player and a good leader, and taking on more responsibility underneath.
All right, we'll be looking forward to the Kennett Indians. They got a tough first-round matchup. You know, that sleeper, South Scott.
Yeah. Well, I think this year they may really be.
Yeah, they could be. They could be. You know, they graduated a few players. You know, Hardman moving to Bluff certainly hurt. Well, I miss Hardman. Well, he was a good player, but he's played over Bluff last couple of years. But you know, South Scott, they got that Smith kid, Lila Smith, looks just like Michael Smith. They might have to be brothers. I thought it was Michael Smith out there, but he graduated, but it just looks just like him.
Michael Smith has a lot to lose. You know, at times he was one of the best point guards in the area.
Yeah. And, you know, so different cast coming in for South Scott, but certainly dangerous. So we'll see what happens there with South Pem and Kennett in that first-round matchup. And let's take a look down towards the bottom here. Hayti, the second seed, taking on Holcomb in that first round. Potentially a second-round matchup with Portersville, like we talked about with the Bulldogs earlier. And Hayti was a similar team to last year. And Terry, you got to see him earlier on this year. What do you make of the Hayti Indians so far this year?
I think they look. You know, they've lost. You know, both Rollins. They've lost some players. Ivory Winters is back. I can't remember who else, but they've got some. They're a better shooting team this year. At least the game I saw them play Twin Rivers, and they were a very good perimeter shooting team. They shot really well. That's one of the problems they've had in the past is, you know, not really good three-point shooting. Well, they have it this year, or at least the game I saw. They have a couple of guys that can shoot. I think their big problem is if they get in a half-court game with his lack of size. But one of their big advantages is that they can open it up. They're so athletic that they can run past teams. Of course, they're really well coached, and they play defense. You know, Hayti, it depends on how the game. If it comes out in Hayti and Dexter, and last year Dexter won pretty handily. If it comes down to Hayti and Dexter, it depends on how the game comes about or how the game is played. Hayti, if they get in the right game, can win this tournament.
Yeah, that's one matchup that I'm sure they don't want to see again is Dexter. You know, just the size really hurts them in that half-court set. That really forced them to hit from the perimeter, having to execute from the perimeter and knock down shots consistently. And that's just that's one Achilles heel of Hayti is if they have to play a half-court game and have that size disadvantage. That's certainly a game they don't want to get into. So, you know, and that second-round matchup, we could see that potentially with Portageville. I tell you, with Torrey underneath, if he really is aggressive around the basket, that could be a tough matchup for the Indians if they get in that kind of game where it's, you know, nip and tuck and, you know, you got size to deal with in the half-court. That could be a matchup that could be difficult early on for Hayti. But I tell you, if they play their game, they're able to play a transition game, force turnovers, get out in the open court, and play with some pace. And you know, they can really get into a rhythm, and that rhythm can be hard to handle if they really get into that rhythm and play at the pace they want to play at. And Tommy, we've seen that in the Boot Hill Conference over the last couple of years. You know, Hayti, when they're able to play, and you know, especially in the conference, play at that high pace, and they get to play, you know, with that intensity on both sides of the floor. That's when they're at their best.
That's right. When they got things clicking their way, they're hard to handle.
Yeah.
And like a lot of teams in this tournament, they have a good coach and they got a good game plan, but like you say, the size is going to hurt them against teams like Dexter. But if they get their game going, they're going to be hard to collar.
Yeah, that's one of those teams where you got to get that, you got to bottle them up and play them in a certain way to beat them. But you let them play their game, they're going to be awful tough to handle, and they're going to play good defense. They're going to be able to hold it to a relatively low-scoring game. But you've got to keep them in the half court, not able to get them out in transition and play with pace and get some good, some easy baskets. You've got to certainly keep them at bay when it comes to that. But certainly a team that everybody's looking, with a 2 seed, people's expecting, Hayti to come in and do well, and they're certainly capable. And we'll be looking forward to seeing what they bring once again this year. But certainly. A very good team, and the Hayti Indians won the district championship last year in Class 2, so another team to look out for in this tournament again this year. And right there on the bottom here, bottom of the bracket, we got the Bernie Mules. The Bernie Mules have won the 3rd seed this year, and an interesting team coming back this year. They finally got some upperclassmen that have come up the ranks in a very good senior class, and getting some younger contributors as well. And we finally seen the Bernie Mules getting some of these kids up to the varsity level or the upperclassmen level. They've been playing varsity for the last 3 years, taking some lumps as some underclassmen, but a very strong group this year, Tommy, as we got to see down in Bernie in that invitational tournament with the Neelyville Tigers, which they beat again earlier this week. Excuse me. And looking pretty good, Tommy, the Bernie Mules this year.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that Neelyville team's not a pushover. They're a nice team. And Bernie's handled them twice. And I was really impressed with Bernie. They've got some pretty good shooters out there, and they make pretty good decisions. And the Suter kid's really playing good inside. He's really, showing his senior leadership inside the paint. And he'll turn like a little turnaround jumper. He'll hit it, and he's banging the board. So Bernie Mules, you never turn your back on Bernie. Wherever they're seated, they're going to come and they're going to play you hard. They're going to defend you, and so you're going to have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves.
Well, one thing I've noticed about Bernie, and I haven't had a chance to see the play except on TV, is that one thing you talked about, the guys who've been playing, should have been playing junior varsity, that have to play varsity. They're becoming their own, and they're very balanced. They're a lot more balanced than they have been in the last year or so. At least in their scoring, they're getting lots of contribution from a lot of players. And if you give Brad Botch, 8, 9, 10 players to play with in a 4-day tournament, they're going to give you some problems.
Yeah, that's right, Terry.
Yeah, and Dillinger really led the way last year, scoring around 25 a game. He's had a few good moments this year. Hadn't lit up the scoreboard, but I think that's a lot to do with some of these other kids coming in and really, sharing the basketball, and other guys really stepping up and being able to score for the Mules. So that's going to make them, a lot more dangerous in this tournament. Not only the tournament going forward towards the end of the year, you got 3 or 4 guys that can really. Really step up and shoot the ball for the Mules this year. So, like Terry, like you said, a lot more balanced team this year. And Bernie's certainly a team, that can really get hot from the perimeter. This is all kid that come in. He's had some good nights shooting the ball as well. And Ellenberg looks like he's, beefed up a little bit, playing a little bit more. He's got a more physical game to him this year. So, that's certainly an asset for the Mules. And like you said, Tommy Suter certainly got the length for the Mules, standing around 6'4", and he's really, the games that we've seen so far, he's had a pretty good presence underneath, which they'll certainly need for this tournament and for the remainder of the season. So finally, we're seeing the Mules in the mix. It's always a better tournament when Bernie. That crowd that they bring, and when they're playing late at night there in the semifinal and the final night, it's always a better atmosphere when Bernie's in the mix with the crowd that they bring, their following, and that should enhance the tournament even that much more this year, with the Mules going to be competitive in this tournament. You agree with me, guys?
Oh yeah, we agree with you.
I think so. And one thing, talk about, you got teams really close to Bloomfield that always bring a lot of people. Dexter's 5 miles away. Bernie's 15 miles away. PepsiCo always brings a good group. But then you got some other teams that have to come drive 70, 75 miles, like South Penn and Van Buren, Donovan, and they always bring good crowds. I mean, they bring a lot of people. Those things. That just makes the tournament that much better. And you all know, I think this is the greatest tournament and the greatest gymnasium in Missouri. So those things just make the tournament better.
Yeah.
And a lot more fun.
Oh yeah. In these tournaments, there's the right teams will make the tournament. And the fans really make the tournament. It really builds the atmosphere, the environment. It makes it into like a district championship or a state tournament atmosphere. And some of these schools with these followings they have, and Bernie's one of those. Dexter's certainly a big following. Malden, if they're going to be playing on that third and fourth night, late at night, the Green Wave are going to have their following there as well. And it's going to be fun to watch, see how these teams go through the tournament with some, with certainly the followings that these teams have. It's going to just make the tournament that much better.
It's such a fun tournament anyway. The years, the Twin Rivers is in the mix. That was always great. Dexter always brings a lot of people. Kennett brings a lot of people. Just watching that gym fill up. And then on the last night, doesn't matter who's playing, it's going to be full. They're going to be pulling out the bleachers, the courtside bleachers, and it's just a fun atmosphere. It's just a great atmosphere. I mean, it's as good a high school basketball atmosphere as there is anywhere. And I'll stand up for that statement. It's as good as any atmosphere anywhere in the state of Missouri. And God, it's just a fun tournament.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm looking forward to this year. There's always a chance that teams are going to fall off, as we see a lot of these teams. The high school basketball, you graduate kids, and sometimes these tournaments can get a little lopsided, as we've seen in years past. But with the teams that have really stepped up this year, I think it's going to make it a very competitive tournament. I think we're going to see some nice games towards the end of the first day. Of course, it takes you to midday to sometimes get some competitive games in the first round. But there's some teams that we haven't seen much of. Van Buren, we don't get to see them much in the tournament. They're going to be taking on East Prairie in that first round, and typically Van Buren's one of those teams that'll pull off an upset or two every now and then, just because we don't get to see them over this way. So it's a team to look out for. Yeah.
Van Buren always plays good competitive games. Even a couple of years ago, when they didn't win a game all season, the 2 games they played in Bloomfield, I thought they played pretty competitive games. They always seem to be be competitive, no matter what kind of team they have. And I think they're a little bit better this year than they have been the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I tell you, Puck School's a decent team this year. They've got golly, what's the kid's name? Levi Woods. Is that got his name right?
Levi Wood is their. They've got
Levi Wood
from last year. They've got them all back. I think they've got all of their scoring back from last year. Wood averaged about 25. They got another kid that averages over 20. So they're going to score points. Now, I don't know how many they give up, but they're going to be. I think that first game against Donovan could be a really good game. Donovan has Clay Barton, who about 10 days ago scored 50 in a game. Saw him last Friday night at Kennett. He scored 24. He's a scorer. He's a legitimate 3-point shooter. He's a scorer. And you all know what I'm talking about, guys.
Right.
And they find a way to score. And he's a good shooter, so he's going to score points. Donovan's going to score points. Buck Puxico's going to score points. That 5 o'clock game on Tuesday, I think it's going to be a real fun game to watch. And Puxico's got everybody back from last year. They were like 10-14 last year. They've got everybody back. They're going to be entertaining.
Yeah, talk about
I
that.
think you're right.
Yeah, Tommy, that Levi Wood kid, and he's like a Pete Maravich. He's been playing varsity since his 8th grade year.
Yeah, but and he's always scored. He's a scorer.
Yeah.
Now he's one of those guys that he's small, 5'10", 5'9".
Yeah.
But he'll score underneath. I mean, he finds a way to get the ball in the basket. And Puxico's, I think, is going to be entertaining to watch. Field. And we talk about our dark horses. Well, I'd say a dark horse that would be a double-digit seed that plays 4 days. And I think Puxico's got a good chance to do that.
Yeah, they definitely got a shot, play 4 days. That's certainly the goal for anyone in this tournament. And Puxico's certainly got that capability. And Tommy, we saw there in that Bernie Invitational where Puxico knocked off Risco in that 3rd place game, and that was kind of a shocker. The Risco's bringing back a pretty good team, and Risco got out of the gate a little slow the beginning of the year, but Puxico knocking them off there in that 3rd place game. That was a pretty impressive win for the Indians this early in the year.
Yes, that's right. It wouldn't surprise me in the least that they had knocked Donovan off in that 1st round. Wouldn't surprise me. They've certainly got a team to do it.
Yeah, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what Puxico. That's certainly what a team like Puxico needs. They need some upperclassmen, seniors, experienced team to come in, which they haven't had that in the last couple of years. Had a younger team. That's why we've seen Levi Wood play a lot of minutes. Played a lot of minutes.
Going to get tenure this year.
Yeah, getting tenure. Yeah, but they're going to be fun to watch, see what they can put together in this tournament. They've had a pretty good run so far up to this point, and certainly the upper class to handle the tournament this year. So we'll see what happens. But guys, I'm really looking forward to this year. Like we've talked about, we've seen teams that have really stepped up their games. I really like where Portageville, Malden, East Prairie, these teams that have really stepped up their game this year are going to make it a lot more competitive tournament. And I'd say there's a number of teams that can really make a run. It's just a matter of playing well early to advance and give yourself a chance there in that 3rd and 4th night. But you can even look at potentially a Portageville team making the championship as a 7 seed, or even a Malden, making it to a championship game if they could down the way get past possibly Dexter. That'd be a nice matchup there. But we could see some interesting seeds perhaps in the final this year that we might not typically get your classic 1 versus 2. It could be quite the different seeds in the championship game this year, which makes it a much more interesting and intriguing tournament.
Yep,
That's right. And these teams, all these teams, and as Terry hit on it a while ago, all these teams are size school districts they come from. You're going to have your ups and you're going to have your down years. Look at Gideon, look at Hoffman. They had their good years. They're kind of down a little bit this year, but they're still competitive. They're going to get up there and they're going to play hard because these school districts, every one of these public schools, has to go with what the district gives them. And, we can't go out and get a 6'8" center, but we go with what we got. So that makes Bloomfield a very nice tournament.
Yeah. And we'll be looking forward to it. And we're going to bring all 26 games to you live here on Channel 21 on your new wave cable once again this year. Excuse me. We're also at yhctv.com on our website. And you can also follow it on Facebook, our Facebook page via Facebook Live for the Christmas tournament this year. And looking forward to the 61st Bloomfield Christmas Tournament live from Bloomfield. And we'll bring it to you right here on YHC once again this year. So, guys, sounds like I'm about done. So,
yeah, save yourself. You got a long long week.
I know.
Yes,
I
it
got a
does.
couple more days I got to rest up for, so hopefully I'll be full strength by then. But, guys, appreciate you spending some time with us this morning, and looking forward to the tournament Tuesday. And bright and early, 10 a.m. That'll be the first matchup. Dexter versus Richland. That'll be the first game at 10 a.m. Tuesday morning. And it goes down the list. The second seed Hayti versus 15th Holcomb, the 11-15 game. And then 12:30, third seeded Bernie versus 14th Gideon. And down the list there, basically the 1 through 8 seeds play the first games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So finishing up with South Pemiscot and Kennett for the nightcap around 8:30. So be looking forward to a great tournament once again this year. Appreciate everyone for tuning in to preview the tournament. Hopefully you'll tune in for the tournament this year starting on Tuesday, the day after Christmas, here on YHC, and we'll be looking forward to it. And guys, rest up and we'll be ready to go come Tuesday.
Sounds good. Let's have some fun.
All
Yeah,
right.
sounds good to me. Merry Christmas, you guys.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Enjoy your weekend heading into Christmas Day on Monday, and we'll enjoy it and get ready for the tournament come Tuesday. So hopefully we'll see you Tuesday through Friday here on YHC. And until then, Merry Christmas, everyone.